Shabbat shalom.
Hi, Gary.
This is always a highlight, you guys.
Oh, thank you.
For us
Thank
too.
you. For us, too.
Very,
Thanks,
very.
Gary.
I usually don't bother people before they get in to say something sensitive. When I saw it was you, I've been swamped. I haven't been to temple in 8 weeks because of my school. Semester ended this week. I'm exhausted. I saw it was you. I thought, I'm going.
That's sweet.
Shabbat shalom.
So
Thank
we're
you.
so glad you did.
Thank you.
Me too. If I fall asleep, it's not personal.
Okay, same with us.
We always assume that.
Yeah, it's true. Shabbat shalom. That's Rabbi's parents, Judy and Ellen.
Your sushi partners.
Yeah, my semester ended this week.
Okay, we can start. We can start. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la ya la la, ya la 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 ya la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la ya la la, ya la 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 ya la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la ya la la, ya la 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 ya la la. 2 more minutes. Do it again. We can't start.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. We're waiting for a few more people to come in, and we'll move it forward. So we love starting with a nigun, as you just heard. And our next song is Hine Matov.
But having heard the Nagun, while others are still coming in, would you join us with the Nagun? You know the words. There are none. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la, ya la la, ya la 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 la, ya la Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to everyone gathered here and at home live streaming. My name is Janice Fine, and my husband Mark and I and our son Josh and daughter-in-law Liz have been proud members of TBI for 33 years. I know, right? And my singing partner is Jeff Winter. And you may know us as Jeff and Janice. We've been singing together for over 20 years when we were first introduced by the wonderful Patty Ray, I think everybody knows Patty Ray of Hillel fame, as two Jewish singing professors who must meet. And the rest, as they say, is history, Jewish history. As we begin, I ask you to close your eyes for a moment, take a deep breath in and out as we come together to embrace the peace and love of Shabbat. Please join us with the singing of Hine Ma Tov, found on page 10. Behold how good and pleasant it is when brothers and sisters dwell in unity. Hine Ma Tov u'manayim, Shabbat achim gam yachad. 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 We welcome Shabbat with the blessing of the Sabbath lights on page 2 and 3, and for that we call upon Lynn Uhlenbrock.
As these rock candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to those who behold us. As the brightness reminds us with all the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindled light. O source of life and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
We continue on page 10 with Yedid Nefesh.
Yedid Nefesh is a wonderful, wonderful melody and has liturgical poetry from the time of the Jewish mystics of Tzfat of about 500 years ago. And it references God as a Yedid Nefesh, as a friend, a very close friend of the soul. Yedid Nefesh av harachaman, God as the intimate of our soul, filled with rachamim, filled with understanding and empathy. And I will use the auto harp to accompany us on this melody.
Yedid Nefesh av Rachman, Yedid Nefesh av Rachman, Mishavdecha Eretzonecha, Mishavdecha Eretzonecha, Yaharutz Avdecha Emoaya, Nishtachel Elai Lai Lai Elai Lai 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 Emul Adarecha, Nishtachel Elai Lai Lai Elai Lai 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 Emul Adarecha. Yedid Nefesh av Rachman, Yedid Nefesh av Rachman, Mishavdecha Eretzonecha, Mishavdecha Eretzonecha, Yaharutz Avdecha Emoaya, Nishtachel Elai Lai Lai Elai Lai 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 Emul Adarecha, Nishtachel Elai Lai Lai Elai Lai 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 Emul We will continue on page 11 with Dodie Lee.
Dodie Lee is a very well-known love song reminding us of the Song of Songs and the famous phrase, Dodie Li va'ani lo haro'eh bashoshanim. I am to my beloved as my beloved is to me, and I see my beloved among the roses. What wonderful imagery to use to welcome Shabbat.
Dodie Lee. השנים, תודי לי, תודי לי, תודי
Well, we have we have a prayer coming from our wonderful Shabbat liturgy, again inspired and in many cases composed by the Kabbalists of Tzfat, and this is Lecha Dodi, also using the word Dodi, and Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala. We welcome Shabbat as we would welcome a bride, and we in the lyrics and the wonderful poetry, really, that is in the liturgy, Shamor v'Zachor b'dibur echad. We remember Shabbat by two words, because in two different versions of the Ten Commandments, one says Shamor et Yom HaShabbat, to keep Shabbat. The other version says Zachor et Yom HaShabbat, remember Shabbat. So this song really combines both of those into one unified view of Shabbat, where we are doing both at the same time. And we will sing 4 verses, and on the 4th verse, of course, Boi v'Shalom, we welcome Shabbat bride coming through the door in the back of the room. We can all see it together. La 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 la, la 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 la. La 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 Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'Zachor b'dibur echad, ishmianu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shem u'tiferet v'liti la 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 la. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki hi mekol habracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof maaseh b'machshava tchila. La 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 la. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, hitoreri, ki va'orech u'mi'ori, uri uri shir daveri, kavod Adonai alayich. La la la. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Please rise. Boi v'Shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'v'tzola, tov emunei am sekula. Boi chala boi chala la la la. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela.
Now we're going to continue on page 24 with Shalom Aleichem, but not just any Shalom Aleichem. We're going to move to a Shalom Aleichem waltz. And we know that Shalom Aleichem will be a chance to welcome the angels. And so what better way than to do it with a waltz? And Jeff will tell you a little bit about this one.
Well, if anybody ever asks you if Jewish people believe in angels, there really is only one answer, and that answer is yes. And we can see it very, very clearly in this next it's one of those prayers that does so much to define Shabbat. There's so many midrashim, so many rich stories that are told about welcoming the angels of Shabbat. And one of those says that when the angels of Shabbat come to our home, if they see that there is stress and difficulty, well, they come the next week kind of expressing stress and difficulty. But if they come and they see Shevet Achim Gam Yachad, people together peacefully, they see families having a wonderful time together for Shabbat, then that increases the chances that it will happen the following week as well. So we welcome you to join us with the Shalom Aleichem waltz, because what better way to welcome someone to the party than to escort them in with a waltz. Yismechu hashamayim v'tagir haaretz yiram hayam umlo yalo sarai v'chol asher boho az yiranenu kol atzeiah. Shalom Aleichem malchei hasharet malchei hasharet malchei elyon melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh hakadosh baruch hu.
Mi melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh hakadosh baruch hu. Mi melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh hakadosh baruch hu.
Ohem neshalom, malchei hashalom, malchei hashalom, malchei elyon. Melech, malchei hamlachim, hakadosh, hakadosh, baruch hu.
Mi melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh, hakadosh, baruch hu. Melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh hakadosh baruch hu. Hakadosh baruch hu. Li melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh hakadosh baruch hu.
Sichem neshalom, malchei hashalom, malchei hashalom, malchei elyon. Melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh hakadosh baruch hu.
Mi melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh hakadosh baruch hu. Mi melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh hakadosh baruch hu. We continue in the middle of page 27 with the reading of Teach Me, O God, a Blessing.
Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer, on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days, lest my day be today as the one before, lest routine set my ways. We'll continue on page 26 with the Chatzi Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yikadash mirabah, v'yomad yirach hirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon, v'chayerach al Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv imru, Amen. Yehi shmei rabam mevorach, le'olam olam me'amaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitrama v'yinaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudisha brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, ta'amiran v'yama v'imru, Amen.
Please rise as we continue on page 28 with the Baruch Hu. Ya la la, la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la, la la la, ya la 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 la.
Baruch Hu et Adonai, HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, Le'olam Le'ed.
Le'olam,
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 Le'olam. Ya la la, la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la, la la la, ya la 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 la. Please be seated, and we continue praying in Hebrew on page 30. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bivaro ma'ariv arabim v'chochma poteach sharim v'vitnuna mishnei etim u'machalif et hazmanim u'msader et hakokavim v'mishvotehem v'kir kirtzono borei yom v'layla golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or u'ma'avir yom u'mevi layla u'ma'avdil bein yom u'bein layla Adonai Sfaot Shemo El Chai v'Kayam Tamid Yimlach Aleinu Le'olam Va'ed Baruch Atah Adonai Hama'ariv Arabim. We continue our prayer with the singing of Ahavat Olam on page 32. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Torah u'mitzvot kukim u'mishpatim otanu limadita al kin Adonai Eloheinu b'shavleinu u'b'kumeinu nasiach b'chukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha.
כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו.
לאורך ימינו, ובהם נגן
יומם ולילה, יומם ולילה. ואהבתך לא תסור ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל.
Please turn to page 34 for the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chal levavecha v'chal nafshecha v'chal me'otecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ela asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'dibarta b'ham v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechecha v'aderech uv'shavtecha uv'kumecha uv'chartam lehod hayadecha v'hayu l'totavod b'neinecha uv'tartam Amazuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tiskaru vasitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kadoshim lelohehem ani Adonai Elohehem Asher hoteti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihot lahem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohehem emet. We continue responsively on page 39. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. From bondage in Egypt, we were delivered. At Sinai, we bound ourselves to your way. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. We continue on page 40 with Mi Chamocha.
לפני משה ואליאנו ועם אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד
אלי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש ברוך אתה אדוני על ישראל
We read together on page 42. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel, for your name's sake. Be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from your wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life, to peace, forevermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom, aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael v'al Yerushalayim. We continue with Hashkivenu on page 42. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim. Ushmor tzedkenu Shalom, me'ata ve'ad olam.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu
Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, hamidenu Adonai,
Eloheinu l'shalom,
Hamidenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim. Ushmor tzedkenu, uvoenu, l'chaim u'shalom, me'ata ve'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai.
We continue on page 44 with the Shamru.
V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We continue on page 46. Please rise. Adonai sefataitika uhufiagitehilatecha. Adonai sefataitika uhufiagitehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu Imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibur v'Hanora, Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chazdei Avot V'imahot, U'me'ula Livnei Pneichem, Leman Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, V'et Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechei Hakol atah Rav L'Shia, Marid Hatal, Mechakei Kayim V'Chesed, Mechayei Hakol B'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim, Rofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umkayenu Natoli Shenei Afar, Michamocha Baal Gevurot, Umito Melech, Melech Mimit Umechayei, Umatzmiya Yeshua, V'ne'emanata v'hayota kol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechei hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'dekoshim b'chayam b'lasela. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el hakadosh. We continue now on page 60 with Shalom Rav. טסים לעולם. שלום רב ישראל עמך, טסים לעולם. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון, לך השלום. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון, לך השלום. שלום רב ישראל עמך, טסים לעולם. שלום רב ישראל עמך, טסים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל, בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב ישראל עמך, טסים לעולם. שלום רב ישראל עמך, טסים לעולם. טסים לעולם. טסים לעולם.
We continue on page 253. In the midst of our joy of celebrating the Shabbat, we take a moment now to acknowledge our awareness that there are some whose joy and celebration are diminished due to illness. We mention particularly Sheldon Cohn, Wayne Silverman, Simcha Ben Hinda, Diana Binder, Asher Gedalia Ben Malka, Miriam Albacase, Fred Siegel, Rabbi Herbert Bronstein, Minna Dina Bet Elki, Harav Shlomo Ben Altalea Vehalel Pesach, Martin Rabinovitz, Ellen Passman, Susan Slobard, Nancy Lewitz, Jason Edward Zimmerman, Victor Oliveira, Cynthia Roth Garfield, Steve Novak, Shelley Zimmerman, Eunice Burns, Jeffrey Martin, John Schimberg, Paul Lassoff, Rachel Willens, Mike Reed, Eden Fishman, Barb Donna, Fred Kimmel. In addition to those thus named, we think of others whom we know, including perhaps ourselves, who are in need of healing, whether healing of body or healing of spirit. And we pray that they soon will know a refuah shlema. Please join us on page 253 with the Misha Berach. Sheberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha L'Imotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our life a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema.
those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. We take some time now for our own private prayers. Oh, say shalom b'mrama, say shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imu imeru, amen. Oh, say shalom b'mrama, say shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imu imeru, amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael.
Shabbat Shalom. So you might know, or you might be, maybe you don't know, that somebody, according to a number of Jewish commentators, probably would not have been very good at socializing or engaging at small talk. Somebody who you probably would not have wanted to spend much time schmoozing with at a party or even at a kiddush. I'm talking about Moses. Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our teacher. Well, according to Rabbi Levi ben Gershon, also known as the Ralbag, a 13th century commentator, quoted by Rabbi Shlomo Riskin, Moses was never a willing participant in leadership. From God's initial approach to Moses at the burning bush, he was a reluctant leader and a very, very reluctant recipient of God's requests. He is called a person who is heavy of speech, kvad peh, that there was something wrong with the way he talked. And the Ralbag, this commentator, said what that means, some have interpreted that to mean that he stuttered. But the Ralbag says that he was just not given to what he calls light banter. Why? He was so immersed in heavy issues. He didn't have the patience or the interest to convince an ungrateful and stubborn people to trust in God to conquer the promised land? No. Moses was the one individual that God spoke with, panim el panim, face to face. And he spent so much companionship in God's presence that, according to this commentator, Moses actually lost the will and eventually the ability to be able to converse with regular folk. Well, this is very important to understand as we begin the book of Deuteronomy, or in Hebrew, Devarim. And we begin in this week's Parsha. The book speaks to us with a very different voice. It's no longer the case that we are hearing what God said as expressed by Moses. We learn rather in this book what Moses has to say. This book is told in the first person. Moses is speaking directly to the people. The 15th century Spanish biblical interpreter and disciple of Maimonides, named Don Isaac Abravanel, Don Yitzchak Abravanel, teaches us that while the words are from Moses, nevertheless, it's still to be considered an expression of God's will and to be considered as having equal sanctity as all the other books of the Torah. Devarim begins with a series of farewell speeches by Moses, long farewell speeches by Moses. He recounts and reflects on the commandments, the events of the Exodus, and everything that has led up to this moment of impending conquest of the promised land. Moses recounts the failed mission of the spies, and he also refers to other discouraging moments. Well, this is the opposite of what we might consider light banter. It's the opposite of party talk. He's framing the history of the Israelites. He's providing context and interpretation. And he's setting the stage for what will ultimately be the settling of the land of Israel. Of course, something Moses knew he was not going to be permitted to take part in. Not exactly material for clever quips. And Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu, he is overwhelmed. The people continue to complain. The missions fail. The people rebel. And they ignore the essence of their mission. Moses is at a loss for what to do. So Maimonides, the Rambam, explains, according to Riskin, that during the revelation at Sinai, the nation heard only a particular divine sound of some sort, and each person understood that sound on their own individual level. It was the legacy of Moses that the divine intent, that God's intent, would be translated into a narrative that we can understand, that our ancestors could understand, and that our descendants will in turn understand. And it's through this process that we learn about the holy legacy we inherit and the mission that we inherit as well. This is thanks to the unique and the holy partnership of God and Moses. And as Rabbi Riskin writes, in this case, Moses spoke quite eloquently, and it was God in this case who answered, Amen. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Jeff. We continue with Aleinu on page 282. Please rise. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'aseh tidula le'atzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoye haratzot, v'lo hasamanu kimishpachot ha'adamah, shelo sam kelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonah. Vanach Bayom hahu, bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo, u'shemo, u'shemo echad. Please be seated. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. Tonight, we recall the following: Sarah Zipporah Edelman, Ray Alper, Abraham S. Benjamin, Philip Braverman, Bernard Brown, Celia Brownstein, Leo D. Ferdinand, Anita Fishman, Daniel Grill, Flory E. Gussis, Ann Hellman, Marvin D. Henry, Dr. Aldona Horba, Bertha Katzman, Sidney S. Klein, Irving Klinetsky, Celia Leland, Nathan J. Levin, Josh Levine, Max Lewison, Dr. Arthur Mayer Marcus, Nathaniel Mayman, Sherry Meyer, Lena Miller, Joseph Myers, Rita Paul, Julia Rabinovitz, Kurt Ransenberg, Philip A. Reifel, David L. Schlacht, Lena Schwartz, Hyman Siegel, Arlene Goldman Smith, Leon Stone, Franz B. Wolf, Lazar Aronovich Udovich, Carol Zell. If there are other dear ones now not mentioned, please feel free to whisper their names now. We invite the mourners to rise. Mourner's Kaddish can be found on page 294. Yit Gadal v'yit Gadash Shemei Rabbah. Bi'alma divra hirute bi'amlich malchute. B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael. Bagala v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mavorach Leolam Ulamei Almaya. Yit Barach v'yish Tabach v'yit Pa'ar v'yit Raman v'yit Naseh. V'yit Adar v'yit Halal Shemei Dekudasha Barichu. Le'ela min chol berchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'klamata. Dam Iran v'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chayim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru Amen. Osei Shalom Bimramav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru Amen. V'imru, V'imru, V'imru. Amen. V'imru, v'imru, v'imru. Amen. We invite our President, Adam Stewart, to come up to offer announcements.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Jeff and Janice, for leading services with your beautiful music, and to Yasher Koach, to Jeff, for your Devar Torah. I just learned tonight, and I wasn't surprised that this was a Patty Ray collaboration from the beginning. That's fantastic. Shabbat morning services will also be beautiful tomorrow morning at 10:30, in person or streamed with Rabbi Sagrin and Ethan Soloveitchik. There will be a Tisha B'Av study held at the home of our congregant, Joan Hakimi, who is also in the streaming booth right now. Thank you, Joan, for that. and with Cantor Cone on Wednesday, July 26th at 7 p.m. Please register on SchulCloud to get the address information. We're very excited to announce the Teen Civil Rights Trip. Registration is available now. The trip will be December 1st through 4th for 9th through 12th graders. Parents of religious school students, if there's any in the room, don't forget to register them on SchulCloud for this coming school year. Registration is open. Thank you and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you, Adam. Well, we invite you to join us in our concluding hymn, which is a very rousing Adon Olam, which can be found on page 321. That will be followed by Kiddush and Motzi. So first, Adon Olam. Here we go.
Adon Olam,
Adon Olam,
Asher Malach,
Asher Malach,
B'terem kol yitzir nivra, Li'et nasa,
Li'et nasa,
V'chefzo kol,
B'chefzo kol,
Azai melech shemo nikra.
Everybody, Adon Olam,
Asher Malach, B'terem kol yitzir nivra, Li'et nasa, V'chefzo kol, Azai melech shemo nikra. V'yachareh, Kiflot hakol,
Kiflot hakol, V'vador yimlach Torah.
Vehu haya,
Vehu haya,
Vehu hoveh,
Vehu hoveh,
Vehu yeh, V'tifar.
Everyone,
Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem kol yitzir nivra, Li'et nasa v'chefzo kol, Azai melech shemo nikra. Vehu echad,
Vehu echad,
Vehu ein sheni,
V'yein sheni,
Lehamshilo, lehavpiraha, Beli reshit,
Beli reshit,
Beli tachlit,
Beli tachlit,
Velo ha'oz ve'hamizrah. Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem kol yitzir nivra, Li'et nasa v'chefzo kol, Azai melech shemo nikra. Vehu eli,
Vehu eli,
V'chai goeli,
V'chai goli,
V'tzofem li, V'yet zaharaha, Vehu nisi,
Vehu nisi,
Umanos li,
Umanos li,
Menaposi,
V'yom
V'yom
Erohigo.
Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem kol yitzir nivra, Li'et nasa v'chefzo kol, Azai melech shemo nikra. V'yahado,
B'yahado,
Av kidruchi,
Av ki ruchi,
B'yet tishan ve'a'ira, Ve'im ruchi, Geviati,
Geviati,
Adonai li ve'Elohim.
Last time.
Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem kol yitzir nivra, Li'et nasa v'chefzo kol, Azai melech shemo nikra.
Well, it is now my honor to call up my personal favorite Brotherhood member, Mark Fine, who will lead us in Kiddush and Motzi, which can be found on pages 4 and 5.
I need the book. No, I need the book open. Vayehi Erev, Vayehi Voker, Yom Hashishi. And there was evening, and there was morning the sixth day. The heaven and the earth were finished, and all their array. On the seventh day, God finished the work that God had been doing. And God ceased on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because on it God ceased from all the work of creation that God had done. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh b'reishit ki hu yom tehillah l'mikra'ei kodesh zecher l'tziat mitzrayim ki vanu v'acharta v'atanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha v'ahava uvratzon hinchatanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat.
Amen. And now, Motzi.
Hamotzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shkoach. Very nice.
Very nice, guys.
Well done.
All right, Joan.
Very
cut.
well done.